Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I am Jiaqi. I'm a PhD student from Digital Humanities Lab, and my topic today will be about, so it's slightly different from what you see from the program, but the main idea is the same. So it's about diachronic semantic change detection in cultural heritage data, but of course it's a very big topic. So I will be approaching this from one recent paper of mine, in which I looked at some contentious colonial terminology from this perspective of diachronic semantic change in historical Dutch newspapers. So this paper will be soon published at the Computational Humanities Research Conference this year, and it will also be available in the conference proceedings. So if anyone will also be there, and also people from online, so I hope we will meet each other there. And so as you can see from my theme, so I'm going to talk about some very contentious colonial terms. So it's very important before I move to my contents to draw your attention to this disclaimer because these terms only appear here as illustrations of my research, and they do not represent my own or my institution's opinions. So now we move to the contents and a little bit of background. So for those of you who are maybe not very familiar with what is semantic change, so actually it's to make it simple, it's something that we can experience, we can feel in our daily life, because it's about how the meaning of a word can change over time. And of course, it's a linguistic phenomenon that is usually studied by linguists, but it can also be interesting for us digital humanists because it can tell us how society changes. As we know, language change as society change. So let me give you this very classic example from this paper, which is also very classic in this field. So I'm sure we all know what this English word gay means. And I think nowadays, when most people hear about this word, we will automatically associate it with some LGBTQ related contexts. But actually, this word has been there in the English lexicon for many centuries, and its original meaning has nothing to do with the modern LGBTQ related context. So the original meaning of this word in English is more like I'm happy, I'm bright when you say I'm gay. So, but nowadays it's not this case anymore. And how does this happen? So with the help of computational methods like word embeddings, nearest neighbor analysis, and also if you can use an algorithm to visualize such a semantic trajectory of how the context, how the words that appear in a similar context with the target word gay change over time, you will get something like this. And it's very apparent to see how this word's usage changed from one period to a later period. So now, why am I interested in studying this topic? So I basically have three motivations. The first one is I want to know how did this terminology involve their meanings during this specific period, and why this period I will talk about it later. And the second is I want to know if some current existing computational methods like embeddings, etc., can be used to detect such kind of change. in my data. And also, I would like to know so if I successfully, I can detect these changes in my data, and what can these changes tell me about history from a humanities perspective? So to be able to do this, I think it corresponds to what is mentioned in the keynote talk this morning. So usually digital humanities is a very interdisciplinary thing, and you need to combine expertise from many different fields. So in my case, I need to use methods from computational linguistics, and I also need to do close reading to be able to interpret, to contextualize what I am looking at in my data, and also this all relies on the digitization of cultural heritage data, which, as you know, usually takes a lot of time and money. So the data I am using for this research is from, so we are very lucky because the digitization part is already done by the National Library in the Netherlands. So they have digitized many newspapers during the past 4 centuries. So started from the beginning of the 17th century. And you can access to them and even download them in different formats like TXT, etc. From the portal, which is also operated by the National Library. So well, there's too many newspapers, so we decided to narrow it down by just looking at 2 newspapers for now. So we chose these 2, Handelsblad and the Telegraph, because first of all, they are all major national Dutch newspapers that have very high circulation rates during this period. But more importantly, so these 2 newspapers, they have contrast editorial positions. So Handelsblad is more like a liberal perspective, while the Telegraph is more conservative. So the underlying hypothesis here is that we think they might have talked about these contentious issues very differently because they have very different target audience. And why this period? So I will keep it simple. So because this period has witnessed significant changes in Dutch colonial relations. If you want to know more about it, you are always welcome to read the paper. And another reason is that because we're using Delphi data, and before mid-19th century, so the data is very, very limited. So that is the practical reason. So now we have the data, and now we have the period to focus on. So what exact terminology that we can look at? So we are referring to an external source, which is the Words Matter lexicon. So it is a lexicon made and published by the World Museum in the Netherlands several years ago, because as LAM institutions, they would like to draw people's attention on this very contentious terminology in their museum collections. And some of them were used in historical context as race and social classifications. So we are currently using this terminology for our investigation. So now methodology. So now I have introduced that we are looking at data from 2 newspapers, and we have this period, which is from 1860 to 1960, so 100 years, and we segment the data into 2 newspapers and also to 3 separate periods. we have 6 separate subcorpus. And now we train word embedding models on this subdata, so that now we have 6 models. And the first thing we did is to compute cosine similarity of the same target word across different periods. And the second thing we did is to do the nearest neighbor analysis. I will explain later. And the third thing we did is to do the post tagging, so part of speech. So you assign so what words is noun, is adjective, pronoun, etc. To your text, so that you can play with their relationships. So these are the 3 steps we have in our methodology. So what is cosine similarity? I'm sure you will also, you can also know more about this in, I think, Thursday and also Friday, because my colleague Teresa will also talk about this concept in her workshop. So pay attention to that. But for now, what you need to know if you don't know this before, this is a mathematical concept, and in this case, it's used as a metric to measure the change. So it's very important here because we want to know, first of all, if these words have changed or not. So this can give you an overview. And usually if you see, so the higher the cosine similarity value is, that means the more similar the 2 vectors, 2 words are. But this is not enough because we want to know how exactly the context have changed. So we need a further step in which we look at what are the most similar words of the target word in terms of their semantic relationships. So we run this nearest neighbor analysis on our target words, and here I'm giving one word which is primitive as example. So this is a Dutch word, but the English word primitive is the same, so very similar, and they have the same meanings. So we know this word basically has 2 meanings, and one is something that is underdeveloped or inferior, which is, as you can see, used here in the first period to refer to people, like tribe, primitive people, desert people, barbaric, etc. So I think the tendency here is very obvious. And the second meaning of this word, as we know, is when we say something is primitive, we basically mean this is simple, this is basic, this is unsophisticated, and this connotation is shown, as you can see, in the later 2 periods. So this can serve an example of how the context of the same word can change over time in our corpus. And the third analysis we did is, as I said, we first run post tagging so that we can look at what adjectives are used to modify our target words. So you can think about, like, when I say you are a nice girl or you're a hardworking student. So we know that in this case, nice and hardworking as adjectives are used to describe the nouns. So what we are doing here is very similar, and they strengthen what we find from the last step, which is the nearest neighbor analysis. So the main takeaway of this paper is, first, computational methods indeed can help us review semantic changes in Dutch colonial terminology during this period. And the second thing is cosine similarity itself is insufficient for understanding these changes. And also, nearest neighbor analysis is essential for distinguishing generic statistical patterns and semantic transformation. And the connotation analysis part can validate and enrich what we have seen in the previous 2 parts. So now some reflections. So Of course, our paper also has some limitations currently. So first of all is the data gap, which is also a common issue in many digital humanities research, because we use the API to collect the data from the Delphi portal. So because there's might be some API limitations, or because the national library they haven't managed to digitize all newspapers. So there might be some data that we failed to collect. And also currently we are just looking at a very small group of target terms. And in the future, we hope to maybe expand our scope and to see we can find something more interesting. And another issue is the OCR quality, which is also a very common issue. So we hope to be able to measure the OCR issue and be able to evaluate how that has impacted our results. And another thing is that we used a Spatie for post tagging step. But as we know, many of these kind of tools are mainly designed for modern contemporary languages. So their efficiency on historical languages may not be so good. So this is something that we also want to improve in the future. And the last thing is I have some questions for you, because from the previous talks, I can see that maybe some of your expertise is more in semantic web, linked data and ontology, and not on NLP, but that's fine. So my question is, if you have any suggestions or experience in like how to model this temporal information in your project, or if you are also working on similar topics. So anyway, your suggestions will be appreciated. And thank you very much.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Any questions? You went, yeah, but you were first. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's you can hear me, right? I have a big voice.
Yeah, I don't know about the microphone.
My question is actually, this was super interesting. I was a question about if there is any plan to present this to like users. So the research that you've done, like, is the idea that this is integrated into, if I understood correctly, heritage institutions in Holland, or is the plan to maybe make the data available to end users? And if so, I mean, it's nothing too early, but then if so, what would be some of the ideas that you were thinking about or exploring for like how to present essentially the research results in a way that, say, me as an end user could go on the web interface and be like, okay, I want to see these diachronic semantic changes that make sense. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I think because, as I said, I'm using the existing source, which is the Words Matter lexicon, and it's made by the land institutions. So this is actually one of my thoughts for the future collaboration, indeed, because I want to see if people who were involved in making this lexicon would react to this kind of work, and how would my results can help them maybe like decolonize their objects in their museum context, and or strengthen this kind of dialogues with society, etc. So that can indeed be very interesting. Thank you.
Other questions? There were some.
Thank you so much. It was really, really interesting. I loved it. And I was wondering about your plans, if there is any, to reapply this methodology to contemporary discourse, because I think that it's extremely interesting how language morphs and changes within the web environment, right? So communities and stuff like that. I'm thinking about like the term queer, which has a certain historical weight on it, and it started like a term to like with a negative connotation. Then it was reappropriated by queer people, and now with the new emergence of contrarianism, I think like the LGBT Alliance, this group of queer people that aim to isolate trans people from the LGBTQ environment, they started to treat the term queer again like a negative connotation of their nature, of their being. So I was wondering if you were planning to reapply this to contemporary discourse, because I think that it's extremely interesting, considering the velocity, the way that the changes are way more rapid and are also way more, I don't know, adjacent to the reality we live in. So I think it's also really interesting to have it now. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I think theoretically this method can be applied to many topics. For example, I've seen papers that have used this methodology to look at, for example, how the word virus changed during the pandemic, as you can imagine what would happen there, and also looked at the lexicon of machine-related terms in the context of the Industrial Revolution. So ideally, this can be applied to many topics, but I think the major issue here is if we have the right data. So the right data means, first of all, as you mentioned, if it's contemporary, so if it covers the period that we are interested in, and also if it has sufficient mentions of the target words that we want to work on. So in your case, I guess, if we want to work on this, then we need to secure a data in which we can find sufficient mentions of this kind of usage of queer. Otherwise, we won't be able to have meaningful results. So that's one important issue here. And about the negative kind of semantic change. So if because this is also one of the types of semantic change that has been identified by linguists. So if a word changes from a positive meaning to a negative meaning, or if it changes from a negative meaning to positive. Yeah, so I think the key is the data, but I think theoretically, yes. Thank you.
We're not hungry enough, so I'll take more questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to ask about the corpus, because you have split it in 3 parts that corresponds to time periods, basically. I wanted to ask you about how did you decide on the periods? Was your decision was led by labs in these institutions, for example, that you mentioned? So.
Thank you. This is also an important question. So in my case, I segment the data according to what I read from history. Because I expect there to be a change, because in this case, there might be a official colonial policy change in the Netherlands, so from the Dutch government, or because of the decolonial efforts after the Second World War. So I segment the data where I expect there might be a change. And also how to segment the data is also like an important consideration in this kind of research, because if you segment the data too much, so like because in that case, you will have fewer data in each period, and that means the vocabulary of your embedding model will also be lower, and that will impact the quality of the embedding. So, thank you.
So this is your last chance. Oh,
I saw where you were when you were showing the words, some examples. I said mostly are nouns or adjectives. Are you any chance working also on events? And did you end up also, when you were doing the connotation analysis, figuring out like there are also synchronic changes, like changes of the same verb or interpretation of the same word at the same time? I make an example that's funny just for the sake of, if you say even that I'm inviting you for coffee, okay, I'm inviting you home and I want you to stay. And I've been told that in Netherlands, instead, when somebody invites you for a coffee, you should refuse and you should get to the door because you overstayed your welcome. So did you end up finding some example, please?
So thank you for your question. First, I will answer you about the event. I think it's going to be super interesting, but for now, I don't know how to realize that using current methodologies that I already know, because of course it will be much more complicated than this, because there will be a lot of layers. And the second question, okay, yeah, so synchronic, yes. So synchronic semantic change, it is also something studied by linguists. But I think the approach, if you want to work on it from a computational linguistic perspective, the methodology would be very different from what I'm doing now, because my focus is diachronic semantic change, and as you can see, I'm training models after segmenting the data, blah blah blah. So I think the workflow would be very different from this, and for that, I don't know much about it.
okay, that wraps it up for this session. One more round of applause for all.